All right, let's talk about something that is, no joke, one of the most important concepts in Power BI. Connectivity modes. Seriously, getting this right is the difference between a report that feels like a sports car and one that, well, one that makes your users go grab a coffee while it loads. So yeah, this is a big deal. Let's dive in.
So, why are we focusing so hard on this? Because understanding the difference between import, direct query, and the others, it's the answer to one of the most common questions you will ever get in a Power BI interview. And if you can nail this answer, you're showing you don't just know how to use the tool, you understand the why behind your choices. That's a game changer.
To really get our heads around this, let's start with the two main options. Just think of them as total opposites. On one hand, you've got a quick snapshot of your data. On the other, you have a continuous live feed. These two extremes are what we call import mode and direct query mode.
Okay, so first up is import mode. This is usually the default, the one you'll use most often, and the idea is pretty simple. Power BI basically just takes a full copy of all your data and sucks it right into your file. The best way to think about it is like taking a photograph. You've got this perfect, crystal clear copy that's super fast to look at, but it's frozen in time, right? It's exactly how things were the moment you click the shutter.
So what's the biggest advantage here? Oh, it's performance. It is blazingly fast because all the data is right there, ready to go. You also get to use every single DAX and Power Query function there is, no limits. It's the perfect choice when your dataset isn't gigantic, say under a gigabyte or so, and when the data doesn't need to be updated every 5 seconds.
Now, let's swing to the complete other side of things, direct query. With this mode, Power BI doesn't copy any data at all. Nope. Instead, it just creates a direct, live connection to your database. So every time you click a filter or a visual, Power BI sends a little question, a query, back to the source and just grabs the info it needs. This is our live video feed. What you're seeing is what's happening right now.
And the huge benefit here is obvious. Your data is always perfectly up to date, no scheduled refreshes needed. This is absolutely essential when you're working with massive datasets. I mean, terabytes of data that you could never import. Or maybe your company has strict rules that say the data can't leave the main database. But there's a trade-off. Your report speed now totally depends on how fast that source database is, and some of the more complex Power Query and DAX functions just won't work.
So it all boils down to this fundamental choice you have to make. It's really all about speed versus freshness. With import, you're picking speed and power, but you're sacrificing live data. With direct query, you're picking live up to the second data, but you're giving up some of that snappy performance. That's the core trade-off.
And if we look right here, this image just lays it all out so clearly. You can see the two modes side by side. You've got import on one side, fast, full-featured, a snapshot, and direct query on the other. Always current, great for big data, but with some limitations. This is basically your mental cheat sheet for these two big ones.
And that brings us to the most obvious question, doesn't it? Because in the real world, it's never that simple. What if you need some of your data to be super fast, but another part of your data has to be totally live? What if you need, well, a little bit of both?
Well, this is where the hybrid models come into play. Power BI is smart enough to give us a couple of advanced options that let us move beyond this either-or choice. We're talking about composite models and live connections. They let us get the best of both worlds. Let's see how they work.
First, we have the composite model. And you know what? The name pretty much says it all. It lets you build a single data model that's a composite, a mix of different modes. Think about it. You could have your small tables, like a list of stores or products, in import mode, so they're super fast. But your giant sales transaction table, you can leave that in direct query mode so you see sales popping up in real time. You get to choose, table by table. How cool is that?
So, you use composite mode when you're facing that exact problem. You need both speed and fresh data in the same report. It gives you this incredible flexibility to mix and match. It really is the best of both worlds when you've got a more complex situation to deal with.
And last but not least, we have live connection. Now this one sounds a lot like direct query, but there is a really important difference. With a live connection, you're not connecting to some raw database. You are connecting to a beautiful, pre-built, certified Power BI dataset that someone, probably an expert team, has already published and cleaned up for you.
So the magic word here is teamwork, or maybe governance. This mode is for big companies that want to create one single source of truth. You've got one central team that builds the perfect data model, with all the business rules and calculations locked in. Then, everyone else in the company can connect to that model to build their own reports. It ensures everybody is singing from the same song sheet, It prevents chaos. Okay, deep breath. We now know the 4 modes. So, how do we pull all this knowledge together to craft that perfect, impressive answer when the interview question comes? Let's break it down.
Look at this. This little table right here is your secret weapon. Seriously, just burn this into your brain. Import is for speed. Direct query is for live data. Composite is for flexibility. And live connection is for consistency and teamwork. If you can just remember those 4 pairs, you are 90% of the way there.
And here's how you structure your answers so you sound like a seasoned pro. Don't just list the 4 modes, that's boring. Instead, walk them through your thinking. Tell them, well, first I'd assess the data. How big is it? How often does it change? Second, I'd evaluate the user's needs. How fast does it need to be? And third, I'd consider the big picture. Are there any special company rules or multiple sources? See, it shows you have a process.
And if you want to leave them really impressed, you can wrap it all up with this idea. There isn't a single best mode. A true Power BI expert knows that the job is to understand the business problem first and then pick the technology that fits. That shows you're not just a technician, you're a problem solver. And there you have it, the 4 connectivity nodes in Power BI, totally demystified. Now you're not just ready for that interview question, you're ready to make much smarter choices in your own projects. So the only question left is, looking at your own work, which one of these modes is going to solve your biggest data challenge? Thanks for tuning in.